Thank you very much. I have an amendment that I'm going to withdraw, but let me say at the top how grateful I am for Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Graham and others who've worked so hard on this legislation. It's an extraordinary example of people coming together and getting some good things done. I want to thank a lot of outside advocacy groups, people from both parties, American citizens who've stood up and made this their cause, having gone through awful experiences themselves, have helped to drive this change. I want to note that Gretchen Carlson is here and how grateful I've been for her leadership under very, very difficult circumstances to speak out with such clarion call and such clarity about issues of discrimination. One thing again, I think Gretchen's become a sort of a hero in my office is because she just makes it plain. Discrimination is discrimination and it's wrong. What we've seen happening in workplaces, it's not the norm. Most companies in my state are really good companies that try to create really good cultures, but when it happens, it's just god awful. And I know that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle just deplore that, the kind of awful, demeaning, degrading things that sometimes go on are awful. And the way things have, people being forced into these arbitrary proceedings in which they have to sign away their voice, have gag orders put on them, it is so deeply unfortunate and unfair to those individuals who now have very little rights and get very little restitution. And one of the most significant harms, though, by forced arbitration is that it obscures from public view how pervasive workforce discrimination can be in some environments. It gives employers cover, and in doing so fails to ensure what our justice system with its transparency often does, is that cultures change, environments change. When employees who have been discriminated against have no recourse but to go into these clandestine proceedings of forced arbitration, there is no sunshine on how pernicious this kind of discrimination is, destructive it is, and when companies settle these claims and get their gag orders, they go about their business. Now, the arguments against this, I heard it. Some folks were saying that, oh, if we pass this ending forced arbitration against sexual assault and sexual harassment, there'll be all of these frivolous lawsuits that are brought up. There was so much doom and gloom that was predicted about how awful this would be. And here we are 2 years later, the act was 2022, and we haven't seen that. What we have seen is that people who've experienced awful types of injustice and sexual discrimination have had justice. And now we're stepping up the plate and saying sexual assault, heck, discrimination is discrimination, and older Americans experience discrimination as well. And here we are in a bipartisan way, like we should, like I know the hearts of some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle say, together, this is wrong. We've heard from people, it shouldn't happen. But I don't understand why we are stopping. Why aren't we just saying any type of discrimination, religious discrimination, racial discrimination, age discrimination, sexual discrimination is wrong? And so this bill is a one step on a justice journey. But a step is not justice for employees in America. There should be a level playing field for any employee that encounters any kind of discrimination. So I am happy to support this. I am happy to go forward with this, but there is a sadness in my heart. But why are we excluding race discrimination? Are we saying it's not a problem in America? Are we saying that there aren't people suffering in silence or cultures that persist or people forced into gag orders because of discrimination against race? Because I know that's not what we're saying, so why stop? I hear the stories. My office has held the meetings with people who have had most disgusting, vile things happen to them, like folks who suffered sexual discrimination, and yet they have no recourse and no justice. So this is a good day for America, but in many ways, when it comes to issues of race, we are failing to have constructive conversations that belie the politicization of racial issues in our country and just get back to the real understanding. When there's a harm, there should be pathways for justice. Where there is discrimination, someone should have their say and have their due. Where a culture of discrimination persists, we should end it. We have done this now about to be twice. I'm praying and hoping that the partners on the other side of the aisle and this side of the aisle that were so in favor of gender discrimination and age discrimination will now continue the effort and do the same for another type of discrimination we all know exists, and that's discrimination on race. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I withdraw my amendment.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Anyone else seek recognition to speak?